Hi, everyone. I'm Linda Zecker, along with my partner, Catherine Mahalik from Cyber Knowledge Partners. And today we welcome you to our Cyber Shorts. So, as we start this conversation, I have to regress a little bit. Catherine, did you watch the Super Bowl?
Yes, I did.
I liked the halftime show, but I don't know if everyone else did, but I thought it was kind of interesting. I have to admit, it's a little beyond my genre, and I didn't really understand it until I read the next day what I was reading. But I particularly liked the live grass. I thought the live grass was really cute.
Sugar cane. Yeah, it was sugar cane.
Okay, right, right.
Yeah, I thought it was very creative and it was entertaining, and that's what's supposed to happen at halftime, right? It's entertainment. It's not a
Right.
so yeah.
Right. I thought it was really interesting because in one of our last shorts, we talked a little bit about the Ring camera and what's going on with Ring. And I saw the commercial for Ring and I thought it had a very interesting perspective. They were talking about how Ring can help find lost dogs or find lost things. And they were talking about that. And we talked about that a little bit on our video chat. But I think the interesting thing we brought into the conversation was some of the other things that Ring can really bring to the public, which you might not necessarily want to occur.
Right. Yeah, the search party feature that they pulled on all of our heartstrings with dogs. Anytime I see somebody looking for a dog, I'm out there looking with them. So it was rather appealing. And you with your two beautiful dogs, it really kind of makes you want to participate, right? Oh, we can save the dogs. But the search party function adds that additional surveillance layer, which we talked about in our book, as well as it creates additional attack surfaces from a cybersecurity standpoint. So there are a multitude of people who have put out instructions, and we'll also put a little instruction set either as part of our short introduction or somewhere on our website just to help people get through everything. It's not difficult, but it can be a little overwhelming with all of the tabs that you have to check and all the rest of that. But, some people say, well, I'm not breaking the law, so what do I care? Well, even if that's not the case, it's really about setting up additional attack surfaces in cybersecurity and also no longer having the ability to choose what you share with the world and not.
Yeah, I think it's frightening. I think it's very concerning to people. And obviously there are some benefits, and I agree with you. It tugs at your heart about the dogs, or if there were children or something else that people were trying to find. But I think at the end of the day, we have to really take our privacy very, very seriously. And I know, having a background of being in the education world, I mean, that was a big conversation we had all the time about the privacy of these children and making sure that when they were using digital capabilities that we were not infringing on their privacy. And I think that we've got so much technology and so many things happening every day that we have sort of lost sight of all the things that we're giving up. I mean, we've talked about this in our book and we talk about this in our sequel that's coming out. But just think about, the algorithms that are out there that determine what you are fed when you pull up your Facebook or Instagram or whatever feed you're getting. And you are fed algorithms based on your search history and based on what you appear to like. You are fed movies that you might want to consider based on what you watch on Netflix. And all of that seems okay. But when you realize that all of that data is going someplace that you have no control over, and you are now feeding the system to help these algorithms become smarter and smarter. And that is the scary part of all of this.
Yeah, we've become the commodity rather than the customer.
That's correct. And I think the interesting thing about this, as AI has become more and more powerful, those tools are being used more and more to feed information. I mean, when we first, got our first book, when we started writing Stolen Trust, we were really talking about technology starting to manipulate individuals. And so we were sort of on the forefront of that. Not that these things haven't been discussed, but we put it in a fictionalized story about how AI and all the tools that were out there were now starting to help people think, or help people determine what they buy at the grocery store, or give them false senses of friendships, and or even in dating apps, helping them find the right person who may or may not even be an actual person. And so it's interesting to me how when we wrote about these things in Stolen Trust, we had, we knew about a lot of this, but in fictionalizing it, it became more real. And now the more and more I read about it, the more I'm like, wow, this is really something we need to think about even more deeply. And in our second book that's coming out, the sequel, we really talk about how technology and AI models, et cetera, are not just, taking over how individuals behave or think. It's now taking over corporations and potentially governments. And that's even a larger step into scariness.
Hmm. Yeah, and I still really am pleased with what how we chose to tell the story.
Yeah.
You'll see there's so many people who us included sometimes who just say, "Did you see the story about the this or that?" And oh, be careful or it does this or that. But to it's the so what factor, right? So what if they're collecting that? I think again, how we did Stolen Trust was really important for people to help them understand and to communicate the so what piece of
Right.
it, right? It put it in that storytelling, it put it in that picture, and it personalized it not to you, but to to the story to make it more real, I think, for people. So I'm still very proud of our book, and I think it was very timely. And I know, we're working hard on that second one. It should be out soon. And to that, so what I also wanted to alert everybody about, we're putting together a small business handbook. And even though we work with board of directors and people on boards, one of the biggest areas of, again, from a cybersecurity perspective, attack services are the small businesses, and they don't have budget, they don't have money necessarily to do all the things. And what we've done is we've put together that handbook that is really a no cost to extremely low cost approach and way to think about your own business's cybersecurity.
Yeah, and to that point, Catherine, I mean, so many of these small businesses, they don't have security officers and they
Right.
don't have IT shops. And those are the places where a lot of this responsibility for how you make sure that your desktops, your computers, your systems are secure, comes back to the individuals that are working there. And they're not all technologists and they're not people that really understand these things. So I think the handbook is really, really going to be helpful to them. I was listening to a interview he is the head of Anthropic. I mean, this person has incredible knowledge and smarts about what AI is doing. And let me just read something that he said because I thought this was fascinating. He said the model that was just released last week, which was GPT 5.3 Codex, there you go, that's a mouthful, that shook me the most. It wasn't just executing instructions, it was making intelligent decisions. Think about that. That's interesting. It had something that he said felt like for the first time it was using judgment. It was like taste, the inexplicable sense of knowing what the right call is that people always said AI would never have. The model has it or something close enough to that distinction is starting not to matter. So to me, that goes back to what we were talking about earlier about Ring, about how algorithms are leveraging our information and feeding us information. AI and some of the new tools that are out there, they're starting to think. And that's a totally human behavior that we never thought a machine would really be able to take on. So I thought his conversation about his fears about where this was going and what he was seeing from the forefront of this development was fascinating.
Yeah, his security officer or the head of security, he in his letter, as you said, talked a lot about this. Dario talks about this a lot. I think of I like to listen to their perspective a little more than some of the other, as they've been called, the AI gods, because they, to my ear, have a little more balanced approach rather than, you know, replace everything, no more surgeons, everything automated, blah blah blah. It feels like sometimes, the oversimplification of what happened at various other times when the new shiny good thing is out there is to jump in both feet without understanding how deep the water is. And so the cautions that have come out from the people within Anthropic and others, I think is it's important. And again, we talk a lot about choose, choice, get smart, understand, and hopefully the books that we're putting together give people the understanding rather than just thinking they have to understand AI and the technology. No, no, no. You have to understand how the system is forcing you or sucking you into the participation and making those choices. And I think that's something that everybody has the capability to do.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think that, when we wrote the book, Stolen Trust, we started off wanting to write something that was really about cybersecurity and what happens in the world of cybersecurity. And as we wrote the book, both the book evolved as far as what
Mhm.
originally, kind of the first chapter to the end of the book, and now into the sequel. But I think our thinking evolved a lot too, because the more we wrote about this and the more we started putting our thoughts together and the data that we were collecting together and so forth, I think we came to realize that, it's more than just cybersecurity. And cybersecurity is one component, but AI is sort of wrapped around cybersecurity. And there's so many things that are coming at you that are potentials for impacting your lives in a both positive, but in a very negative way too.
Yeah.
And your bank accounts are all out there. My poor husband, who is not a technologist, wants to go back to analog. He wants to get rid of all of online banking. I'm like shaking when he says that because I do everything online. I pay all my bills online. I do everything online. And then I think about all the data that's out there about me. Everything is out there about me. My social security numbers, my one social security number, my personal information, everything, all my connections to other people, it's all out there. And if someone ever really wanted to harness that and do something with it that could be harmful, it's there, it's available. And it doesn't take a super smart technologist to be able to mine that data.
Oh yeah, no, and AI's made it even easier. And there's just so many fronts opening up. CarPlay. I did something very silly. I didn't charge my phone battery and I was out on the West Coast going to a conference. And so I had to plug into the car in order to charge my phone, which is like, all you're doing is just extending your data into that if you don't go in and erase stuff and do all of the things. And so enough said about how scary it can be, but it does open up so many fronts for our own personal cybersecurity and our own personal financial security and our privacy, of course.
Absolutely. Well, I think this has been an interesting chat, one that I think we'll continue to talk about a lot. We'd like to really make sure that you all are aware of our small business guideline that's coming out. We'll be introducing that over the course of the next couple of weeks. And then, of course, our sequel to our Stolen Trust book will be out over the course of the next couple of weeks too. So we have a lot to talk about and a lot to show you. And I think I want to just leave you with one last thought, that don't think that you are immune to all the things that are happening in the world around cybersecurity and with the implementation of AI. AI is in everything that you're doing, and cybersecurity is something we all need to stay on top of. So we'd love to chat with you more, and if we can help you in any way, please reach out to Cyber Knowledge Partners. So thank you very much.
Thank you.